let's start off this morning. What made Steve Jobs and Thomas Edison successful innovators? Why do Apple and eBay thrive? And more importantly, can you ape their success? Well, that's just some of the questions addressed in a new book called The Innovators DNA. And to tell us the conclusions of the book, I'm delighted to be joined in studio by Alan Jordan, Sales Director of BookBuzz. Morning, Alan.
Morning, Ian.
The Innovators DNA by Jeff Dyer, Hal Gregerson and Clayton Christensen. Are you born a genius or can it be learned?
Yeah, well, the boys say it can be learned, and I suppose they spent 8 years of research putting this book together, taking information from over 500 innovators, 5,000 execs, and from 75 countries. It's summarised well early on in the book, where they put together a nice little model which kind of shows that creative innovators, they have, first of all, the courage to innovate, as shown in their ability to change the status quo and take risks, but also they incorporate the behavioural skills, and this is the learned behaviour of observing, questioning, networking and experimenting, and they lead to associative thinking that ultimately leads to innovative business ideas. Now, if you just bear with me, I'm going to get a little bit cerebral for you for this hour of the morning, just to give you an idea how that works. The brain doesn't store information as a dictionary alphabetically, like with theatre under the letter T. So theatres can be associated with Broadway, ice cream at the intermission, or anxiety because as a kid you remember the time you fell off the stage at school play. So the more diverse knowledge the brain possesses, the more connections it can make given fresh inputs of knowledge. And then these fresh inputs trigger the associations that lead to novel ideas. So say, for example, something that we're passionate about. When you take new ideas, fresh thinking from business books, what they act as a trigger mechanism that fires your imagination, that then leads to other unexpected associations that act as powerful and essential supplements of data. So that helps you work through a problem and are the critical creative tools that help generate strategic insights. So say, for example, remember when we reviewed Nicholas Carr's book, The Shallows, and we said we're all turning into pancake people, we're spread wide and thin and no depth. Here, you create a wider web of neural connections, and you create an associating muscle for innovative thinking. Now,
that sounds rather complicated.
Doesn't it a bit?
According to the authors, there are 5 key skills that make good innovators stand out.
Yeah, and of course, some of them would seem quite simple and ordinary, like associating. So therefore, you lose a lot of your associating skills around questioning. So all of the top innovators I looked at were always questioning, asking questions, observing with intensity, noting down what was happening, using journals, networking, connecting with people from different groups outside of business, so stimulating their whole mindset. So say, for example, books we would have done around Mavericks at Work, trend spotting, demand. This allows the innovators to develop hassle maps, but then also to come up with innovative ideas around, pricing, around commodity, and around developing different products. And what the book is saying is that, you aren't necessarily born with this. They did some survey on 25 sets of twins. I always imagine these twins in some type of laboratory and separated at birth, but no twins were hurt in the making of this book. And the analysis then looks and says, no, 25% of it you can be born with, but the rest of it are these learned behaviours.
I gave 2 examples there, as Steve Jobs of Apple and Thomas Edison, but going back, a century between them almost, but they are surely standout people.
Well, no, you see, yeah, they are standout people, absolutely. And if you read Steve Jobs' book, The 600 Tome, but really, if you look at where he got his ideas from, it was having a questioning mind, it was being inquisitive, it was drawing associations, it was being an excellent networker. I mean, Edison, I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that do not work. So a lot of the innovators they looked at had a lot of commonality, and it's a bit like, remember that 10,000 hours of practice. What these authors are saying after 8 years research, you know what, if you practice these skill sets of networking, experimenting, observing and questioning, in actual fact, they say, listen, you need to act more like a 4-year-old. Just keep on asking questions and that'll help you get there to more innovative products and services.
Is it practical enough, the book, for people out there to pick up some tips?
Yeah, it is. The only thing I found interesting was, despite the 8 years research, a lot of the companies have the brand names that we just spoke about. So, for example, you'll see all of the authors from Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos from Amazon, Michael Dell, Howard Schultz from Starbucks. No BRIC countries, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, Korea, and I don't see any women innovators out there. So I don't know what that means. Either they're not creative enough, they're not thinking enough, or...
surely not. I don't think the authors would have...
Well, probably, I'm sure Ivan and Chris will have something to say on that later.
Just looking, I mean, these type of books, I mean, innovation, people always say, you look at Malcolm Gladwell and the Outliers and you say, look, the 10,000 hours of practice. But for anybody out there, say, look, is there anybody really that at a lower level, not the big American technology companies, but at a lower level, the local company doing well? Do they give any practical examples like that?
The research, it doesn't churn through because they try to develop an innovation premium around the top businesses. They were saying in the book that, yes, there were companies that had those particular skill sets. And I suppose one of the things that the book argues about is that, look, the image of creativity is all very well for intellectuals and bohemians sitting around on beanbags, but it takes an innovator to get things done. So there's a practicality and an execution side to a lot of the things, which is really very important in business.
Okay, Alan Jordan, Sales Director of BookBuzz, thank you very much for joining us this morning. In that book, The Innovators DNA by Jeff Dyer, Hal Gregerson and Clayton Christensen. We'll stick the details on our website later on. Well, up